My name's Tyson Schuetz. I'm the founder and CEO of Auben and Auben Capital Partners. We started in scatter site single family in about 2009, and we've migrated from scatter site to also small multifamily and built for rent. And we're in 10 different markets. We raise capital to buy property management companies, to buy assets, and then we also provide third-party services. Yeah, so I think one thing is we do a lot of things, and so when you do that, you have to be more responsible and accountable to the outcomes. I think it's ultimately made us better managers. We're required to be more disciplined, more consistent in our execution. I think it's also been interesting being both a client of our own services. We're able to consistently sort of assess it and evaluate from a different lens. So I think the way that we're set up has been really beneficial for us to constantly make sure that we don't drink too much of our Kool-Aid, but are always focused on getting better. Yeah, so we like to consider ourselves residential experts. So if it's small multifamily, small build for rent, below 150 units, scatter site single family, that's something we're interested in. We think ultimately, as far as having the services in-house, it takes more effort and energy to build them out, but I think you can have a lot more control and ultimately what you're trying to get from the investment, from the properties. I would also say there's different approaches, but I think going deep within the markets in terms of your presence, while also having some regional or sort of national support, is a good way to have local market experts that are also assisted and benefited from a team of people supporting them. Yeah, it's a funky market for sure. I think what we're seeing is a lot of sort of almost reverse migration of the Midwest. We started a lot in southeastern, the Sun Belt markets, and I think as some of those areas have gotten oversupplied, higher taxes, insurance, we're seeing people go to the Midwest as a function of affordability. We're also seeing both of our landlords go there to look at potentially catching a market while it's still emerging. I think also there's been a lot of people moving from scatter site to build for rent, which for us, we like scatter site because there's a lot less competition right there. Scatter site is still harder to be as predictable as a build for rent product is, but as long as you're capturing the risk associated with the unpredictability, we really like the scatter site assets. Yeah, for us, I think we're ultimately very focused on the people that are running the assets and ensuring that even as we lean further and further into data and tech, we have team members that really understand, what is the market going on, what are the objectives of the investment, how do they work with the local legislation, the local market, the local leaders, to really ensure that the outcome moves from just a spreadsheet to actual fruition. Yeah, I think for us, we've had a number of investors that have invested in opportunity zones. Previously, the opportunity zones were more urban core type, locations. I think it'll be interesting to see. Everything I've heard is the new opportunity zones will be more rural or sort of, exurb locations. So it'll be interesting to see how that changes, or if that changes, where capital's actually flowing. Yeah, I think it's important to stay informed, but I think it's also important to stay focused on the fact that, if we look as a country, we're still undersupplied for housing, and there's still a need for quality, whether you want to call it affordable, attainable workforce housing, there's a need to have more of that. So I'm very much, of the mindset that we all need to be vocal about advocating, promoting why we need more housing. But I think that ultimately the outcomes will be that there will be some modified version of the current proposed legislation that allows investors to continue to invest in this asset class.